All right, looks like we're live. Let's make sure it's going out okay on the old YouTubes. Come on. You know what? Let's move the mic, which hopefully doesn't screw things up. I don't know how much that's going to sound bad, but alrighty. So, I just kind of felt like streaming. There's not really anything to talk about, and yet at the same time, I just sort of felt like talking. I didn't even put a sponsor in this because I don't know if I'll go a full hour or anything like that. And I mean, who the hell knows? Sometimes when I say that, I end up going like, 2 or 3 hours, but I don't know. So I was just this evening cleaning my room, my bedroom out, and it's kind of an odd thing when you think about it. Especially when I was in NEAT, I took to really cleaning my room and organizing my room. I organized shelves, got a game shelf all organized. Um, Organized my bookshelf a few months ago. And, having shelves like that, especially when you're a nerd, you got little figures and shit like that. You gotta do a good amount of dusting. So, when you really go to clean the room, it takes a while. And it's something Jordan Peterson said that kind of stuck with me. And Undertow introduced me to Peterson, and through that Carl Jung, but Peterson's a little bit more digestible, so I admit I followed him a bit more than trying to actually read some Jung. And Peterson actually has a book coming out in January. I'm looking forward to that. I always find his lectures very helpful. But there's something to cleaning your room that is missed. I mean, something as simple as making your bed. We were all told as kids, oh, you got to make your bed. Well, why are you going to make your bed? Who the hell cares? And a lot of us probably in our adulthood years, we abandoned that because who cares? Your baby boomer parents told you to make your bed, and none of them could have told you why. And baby boomers as a generation were pretty filled to the brim with shit. So you just sort of discarded it. But there is a reason why. It has a psychological effect on you. It creates this accomplishment early in the days if you do it first thing, if you can. And I have no excuse not to. I'm second shift. So, I'm not, it's not like I get up and have to quickly get out the door to work. I mean, I get up and I have a couple of hours at least before I have to go out the door. So I have no excuse not to do that. And just simple things like cleaning your room. I mean, nobody sees my fucking room but me. It's if I have guests over, um, we're not hanging out in the bedroom. Even if I have a lady friend over, I'm not trying to screw around anymore. I'm a man of faith, even if I'm not a particularly good man of faith. I am still a man of faith, so I'm not trying to, immediately bring a young lady into the bedroom. If you catch my drift, I've sort of been there, done that in my younger years. So nobody sees it but me. And I still make an effort to keep it clean. I've still learned, especially over this past year, when I've really needed the order and stability to do that. And I don't, not to say I do it perfectly, not to say, dirty clothes will end up on your floor sometimes, and it gets out of hand once in a while. But like I said, I took this evening and used this as a good time to go ahead and clean through it. I do this. I do this so often. You'd think I'd be able to fucking talk, and it really does provide a certain, I don't know, anchor. Again, just something as simple as getting the shelves in your room in order, dusting, that sort of thing. It's amazing what that and then things like posture. That's another thing that, and I mean, it was lost in the culture in general, but that's another thing that, I wish somebody would have explained to me as a kid, even why that matters. Yeah, there were a handful of adults here or there that were like, stand up straight, but they were using some bitter old school marm, fuck you, lady, just, she didn't know why you should stand up straight. She just, wanted to yell at you. Nobody in the baby boomer generation could explain. And look, some kids, I mean, they're either going to do or not do what they're told. But some kids who are a little bit smarter than most, they kind of want to know why. Um, and again, it's not that I'm a genius, but a little smarter than half the idiots around me. And yeah, just something as simple as standing up straight. It boosts your confidence, boosts how people see you. It even, I've heard it boosts your metabolism. Even it even plays a small role in keeping you in shape, as it were. And nobody explained that to us. Nobody explained that to the millennials. Almost nobody told us to even do it, and those that did couldn't have explained why it was important to save their souls. It's easy to look at the SJWs of the millennial generation. And I mean, am I even a millennial? I was born in 83. I'm, depending on what metric you use, I'm a very old millennial. I'm a very young Gen Xer. And I do sort of straddle both those generations in personality. I'm never totally in one group, and I've almost never been my entire life, which is good and bad. It's just the circumstances of combined slightly with my nature, but the circumstances of my nurture kind of saw to that. I was born straddling millennials and Gen Xers. I was raised in about the most quintessential suburb imaginable. And what is a suburb? It's halfway between the country and the city. I had dense woods I could play in as a kid, or I could also ride my bike to 3 different shopping centers, a mall, a community pool, my school, all my friends' houses. I really had the best of both worlds. I don't know. That's why I never totally am in with any of the groups I identify with. Somebody talking about cooking healthy meals. I'm not a big leftover fan. If I'm being honest with you, I have a bunch of Thanksgiving leftovers, and I mean, I'll eat them, I guess. I don't want them. I'm not much of a leftover guy. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little spoiled that way, but I'm not. I prefer to just cook small meals, and that's hard to do. It's hard to cook for 1 or even 2. You look at a lot of recipes, and it's assuming you're cooking for 4 or 5 at least. Let's see. But primarily, I just cook up some chicken each time on the skillet, a little bit of vegetables. I mean, chicken, veggies, and a little bit of sauce is a very healthy meal, and you can do a lot with it depending on what sauce you go with. Sorry, getting a text there. Let's see what we got going on in chat here. Scroll up a little bit. Somebody says, "What's the deal with Mormons?" I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, I can't say I've given Mormons a great deal of thought. Their theology is batshit. I mean, I know I'm hard on the Orthodox and the Catholics, but I'd at least consider them Christians, more or less. Um, the Mormons, though, they have about as much in common with real Christianity theologically as Islam. As I was about to say, Muslim, yeah, as Muslimism. So he says Bechtloff is woke, with a parentheses around the E. I'm not really sure what the hell that means, but all right. Mormons are sketchy, but they raise good kids in close community. Judge a person by his fruit. And they're also kind of subversive. So he said Bechtloff was talking all low and depressive. I thought his dad died or something, but he was just talking about his recipes. Oh, I see. The woke in the parentheses E, he was saying walk, stir fry. Yeah, that's kind of what I use. I don't know. I do feel a little, I don't know, melancholy, a little. I'm not going to say depressed. That's a bit of a strong word, but you know, what's a half word for depressed? I feel a little like that. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Could just be ups and downs. You know, could just be something I ate. Who knows? Post turkey blues. I don't really like turkey, so I haven't had any turkey. I had ham Thanksgiving dinner. So he says you got the holiday blues. Not really. I actually like Christmas. I mean, I put up a tree yesterday. I've been so fucking broke this year. I really, it's been a chore to just get my Christmas list done. I'm not even done yet, and I'm usually done by mid-November. But money's just been so tight that, you know, it's been a chore to bang out my Christmas list, and I don't even have a particularly long Christmas list. So that's kind of bummed me out, but it is what it is. I mean, it's not like anybody's expecting a ton of things from me since I've spent half the year fucking unemployed. I don't know. It just wasn't a particularly good year for me. You know, even now, I mean, I have a job and it's fine. I'm grateful to have a job, but it's not something I'd want to do long term. I mean, I left that company 10 years ago. I know what that company I'm at now is like long term, and it's not something you want to do. People lose their fucking minds working there long term. Everybody that's been there long term, and this was true back when I was there, now it's true now, is either a complete asshole or just not giving a shit, and they do just enough to not get fired. I remember one time, you know, and I'm not going to go into detail what's done there because I don't want to dox myself, but this was back when I was working there, and again, I left back in 07 the first time. Just because when you're full time, the overtime hours are ridiculous there, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, 50-hour weeks, or if you're lucky, it's usually around 60. But I remember that was back when they started really cracking down on people having their cell phones out, because everybody was texting when they had a chance as they were working, because, you know, you working so fucking much, you never see your friends and family, so you trying to talk to somebody. And it was one of those rules that was always against the rules, but nobody cared. And then all of a sudden, they just started mass enforcing it. Like everybody's just getting write-ups out the ass, right? And you know, so they catch me on it one time, because again, this just was all of a sudden, you know, like 3 days earlier, bosses would walk right by you with your cell phone out and not care. All of a sudden, now it's an issue. Well, whatever. It was always against the rules, so I guess you can't complain. But you know, they weren't giving you warnings or nothing. It was just straight to write-ups. And so I got a write-up back then, and they wanted This boss wanted to bitch at the guy directly over me on the job we were doing. Like, you're supposed to watch him and make sure he's not doing it. And it's this grizzled old fuck. And he's just sitting there and looks at him and he goes, I don't care if he has his dick out as long as the work's getting done. And it was some young boss who didn't even know what the hell we were doing. We always called him khakis. That's what we called the higher ups. You usually had to deal with them primarily on first shift, but a little bit in the second shift, you had to deal with the khakis. The fucking office guys who didn't know what the hell we were doing out there. Somebody says, will you get a good tax return? I know when I was unemployed for a quarter of the year, my tax return was great, but that was in Australia. The U.S. probably does. Well, the problem I have is I haven't had insurance for 3/4 of the year. So I'm going to get butt fucked with the mandate thing. So and as I understand it, they are only able to take that out of your tax return. So worst case scenario, just choose up my tax return. But yeah, I don't know what the penalties are up to now. I have no fucking idea. I mean, I would hope maybe Trump is able to get the fucking repeal through and have it be retroactive, but I doubt that. So I'm probably getting fucked on a tax return. All these fucking leftists talk about how good, the Obamacare was for the poor. It doesn't give you free health care. It forces me at the threat of stealing more money from me. It forces me to buy shit I can't afford. It's not Obamacare. They managed to fuck up the giving out free shit part of socialism. So he says, would you qualify for assistance? I have no doubt that I would. I haven't really looked into it, though. I mean, this year is the first time I've collected unemployment in my life, and I wasn't even particularly fond of doing that. But in all fairness, it was such an emotional kick in the ass to me what happened in the end of March. I doubt it had been any good to start another job right away. It probably just, I wouldn't have been able to get my head in the game. Probably just made a fool of myself. That was a fucking rough month, man. I lost a job I loved. In the course of 3 days, somebody hit my car. I lost a job I loved. And my fucking dog died. In 3 days. That was my Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Or no, my Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't fuck, whatever. It was in the course of 3 days. So he says, don't they always fuck up the giving out free shit part? No, that's actually the easy part. What was it? Thatcher, I think, said that, Margaret Thatcher said, socialism works great until you run out of other people's money. Well, Obama couldn't even handle the fucking giving out free shit part of socialism. Bechtloff, are there any other jobs in your area, or are you stuck where you are? Oh, there's jobs. I need to... I gotta find them. That's all. They're out there. This is a good job to have in the meantime. This is a good part-time job. Don't get me wrong. I mean, hell, it's a good enough part-time job that if this right here, what I was doing, was actually making me enough to be considered itself a part-time job, I'd be kind of set. Aside from not having health insurance, So he says, Bechtloff, are you telling me American Mugabe Obama wasn't the all-knowing hope and change God people believed he would be? I have to admit, back in 2008, I kind of rooted for Obama a little bit because the Republicans had become such a fuck up that I thought they needed a little time out. They needed a little bit of time in the wilderness, pull their head out of their ass. And I was kind of right, but I was off by 4 years. I thought that Obama was going to be a Jimmy Carter, that he was going to be an abysmal failure, and some glorious, person was going to emerge from the Republican Party in 2012 and bring the Republican Party back to something somewhat worthwhile at least. And like I said, I was just off by 4 years. Bechtloff, have you had an experience with the armed forces? Have you been in the Air Force, Army, etc.? I'm not Army material. That's not for me. I'm not. I don't particularly wish to go bleed out in the sand for no good reason. Let's see. So he says, would you qualify for assistance? It's subsidizing the poor. Use it if you can get it. I don't know. I never, like I said, I've never really collected. And I could probably easily qualify for food stamps, for example. You know, I could have Uncle Sam paying my grocery bill at the very least. Let's see. You know, Bechtloff, you need to write an 84-page book about politics in large font and watch the cash roll in. You know what I was no lie thinking of doing once? Back when I was dating my high school sweetheart, we were kicking around the idea of you know, her just throwing up a few pics on one of those fetish sites and having a bunch of losers send her money as a FinDom thing. You know, but the pair of us had souls and couldn't, you know, they don't make water hot enough to wash that shit off, so we couldn't do it. But yeah, I can't just write a bullshit 84-page book. And, you know, I mean, hell, I cut a lot of shit on my Is Castlevania 2 that bad video because it was too short. You know, this guy wrote this massive essay and was like, you were talking about this for a year and it's only a 5-minute video. I'm so disappointed. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't ramble on too much on those videos because I gotta have Luke, I gotta have Luke animate them and stuff. Plus, I still do want to do a more in-depth one where I actually capture my own game footage. I just, you know. He says Bechtloff doesn't have the legs to sell. Sell this book. Bechtloff confirmed for pimping his girlfriends. I don't even know if you call that pimping, where it's just like, here, sweetie, just look kind of pissed off and, I don't know, flip off the camera or something while I take this picture, and I'll just, I'll write some bio and FetLife for you. Set up a PayPal. I mean, I guess you're kind of a whore, but as far as whores go, you have the sweetest gig imaginable. So he says, good thing you didn't do that because the pics might end up resurfacing on 4chan or something. Well, they wouldn't be pics of me, but you know, I always know you don't put your face in the pics. That's what I always say. But my point I was saying about the Castlevania video is, you know, I'm not a sexy blonde chick, so people actually scrutinize my work. I actually gotta perform. I mean, I personally think the vids are pretty good, but even they get pretty heavily scrutinized. And you know, I'm not even complaining about that. You know, by all means, you know, if you think I'm not up to snuff, then by all means, you know, say, hey, you can do better than this. You know, on one level, it's a good thing. You know, somebody thinks I can do better than this. That's, you know. don't shy away from criticism. So I'm not sitting here like, man, fuck that guy. He was mean to me and my feelings are hurt. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just using it as an example that, I actually have to bring something to the table other than a nice set of tits, because I don't have a nice set of tits. So he says, Bechtloff, did you see my question asking for advice? I did not. All right. So Jolly Crocodile says, maybe you can give me some dad advice. I'm 21 years old. 21-year-old white dude. I want to drop out of college, but I don't know what else to do. What would you recommend I try, Bechtloff? Which job, which trades? Well, I mean, it partly depends on what's in your area. I will say, though, as far as like getting into blue-collar trades, trades are a little different. As far as just a blue-collar job where you can make a little bit of money, go find a temp service. Virtually every decent job I've ever had in my life, I originally found through a temp service, because that's what companies like to do right now. They like to tempt to hire. That's just how they like to screen people. As far as trades, I mean, yeah, if you're in college, again, this is just general advice. I don't know exactly what your circumstances are, but college is a waste of time, and it's much more a waste of money. And, yeah, you're 21, you're young. That's wonderful, but you're not as young as you think. When you're 21, you think you're going to live for 21,000 years in your heart of hearts. You got forever, but you don't. So as for trade, look into trade schools. I mean, maybe even depending on connections, look into an apprenticeship with a plumber or a welder or an electrician. Those are always in demand. There's always good money. Once you get in a good position, you can write your schedule. I wish I did that. Trust me, if I was your age right now, I'd be trying to get in with an electrician, learn that shit. As long as there's civilization, we're going to need the lights on, need the toilets to flush. We're going to periodically need to throw a couple pieces of metal together. But yeah, don't be going to college. And if your dad's upset with you, just be like, it's a waste of money. Drop out immediately. Again, that's my general advice. I don't know exactly what you're going in for, whatever. But in general, my general advice to everyone in the university system is to leave the university system. Unless you're learning something very valuable, very lucrative, and all your teachers just happen to be like Jordan Peterson as far as being switched on, you get out of there. Even if, like, this is even my advice to like artistic kids or something like that. Like, you're like, I have a passion for music or for drawing or for painting or whatever. And that's fucking wonderful. Okay. The world needs art. The world needs music. The world needs literature. If you have a creative passion, that is absolutely wonderful. I don't mean to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. Pardon me. I felt like I had to belch up a storm like DSP there. I don't mean to diminish that at all. The world needs that stuff. It really does. Yes, it's not quite the same need as we need the lights on kind of thing. But, art isn't necessarily the thing that makes civilization possible. It's the thing that kind of makes civilization worthwhile. So if you have a knack for those kind of things, by all means pursue them. But first, get yourself a good job, a good trade, learn a good trade, and pursue that stuff on the side. Like in art school, if you just audit, you can just audit classes, by the way. Just audit a perspective class and like an illustration class, especially the perspective, though. I can't emphasize that enough. If you want to learn to draw, they don't teach enough perspective classes in art school. Frankly, they could teach like 4 or 5 perspective classes. Perspective is this amazing nexus between art and science. There's an art to perspective drawing. There's a math to it too. There's a million little tricks on doing it. Point is, a perspective class and an illustrative class, for example, illustration class is all you need out of an art school, for example. That's kind of a side tangent, but you get my point. There isn't really a lot worthwhile in the universities anymore, and that's a shame. I mean, it's not that there's nothing inherently worthwhile to the humanities, to art, and all that stuff. It's just, as the system is now, no. So yeah, my general advice, again, I don't know your exact situation, drop the hell out. You are better off working at Burger King than going to a college, generally speaking, right now. You will learn more working at Burger King. Just learning how to mop a fucking floor properly is more valuable than 90% of what you're going to be so-called taught in a university. And more importantly, learning to smile and nod when you have to eat shit from the customers is also an incredibly valuable life skill. But yeah, leave your university. You've probably already racked up more debt. And also the idea of student loans being this thing you can't absolve with bankruptcy is beyond horseshit. That's how it is here in the States. I know some of you are Canada or Australia or whatever, but you can't even absolve student loans with a bankruptcy. That's bullshit. Because it leads to two problems here. Number one, you're supposed to be able to file bankruptcy. Now, yes, there's penalties to bankruptcy. Obviously, you're not going to get a loan anytime soon after that. Your credit score's fucked and all. But, we don't want people in debt for the rest of their fucking lives. That's just a moral position the West traditionally took. But also, if people have the right to forfeit on a debt, again, with certain penalties, then that makes the people that loan money actually be careful about who they loan money to. Maybe they wouldn't be handing out student loans to everybody and anybody and kids that obviously shouldn't be going to college in the first place if they knew that kid was probably going to drop out and never pay you back. It was a few years ago. It was, I think, right after the housing bubble burst, or right as it was starting to burst, or whatever. But I remember a bunch of banks were complaining that people were just, people would be in these underwater mortgages where they owe more than their house is worth, and they would just walk away, right? They would just finally say, look, I'm just going to go get an apartment or whatever I got to do. I'm just going to move. I'm just going to, here you go, bank, take the house. I'm going to get the fuck out of here, right? And the banks were pitching a fit. And a bunch of those shills, mostly on the right, who were very pro-bank, very pro whatever, bank, financial sector. They were all like this, like some of these banksters were trying to argue that this was morally wrong. That's such bullshit. Look, if I enter into a mortgage, I've entered into an agreement with the bank that says I will be giving you X amount of dollars each month until the total debt is paid off, plus the interest. And if I fail to do so, within, obviously, there's a 90-day process, you can seize my house. You can seize this home, this property, this land from me. That's the agreement. So if I go up to him and say, hey, you ain't getting no more money, go ahead and take that. Go ahead and take that house. See you, bye. I haven't violated the agreement. Because part of the agreement was I will either give you this money or you take the house. That was the deal. See? So when people get underwater on these mortgages, they just walk away. They haven't done anything wrong. I mean, they've kind of gotten themselves in a fucked up situation. That was wrong. But at that point, when you're in that situation, that's probably the best thing to do. And not only were banksters complaining about that at the time, trying to act like it was immoral, but a lot of these banks were actually pulling the same shit on some of the buildings they owned. Jolly Crocodile says, "You think temp service is a good idea?" I would say yes. It's absolutely a good idea. They'll find you good stuff. Again, most temp services will. In my years of working, again, this was the first time I ever collected unemployment. So that meant past, if I got laid off, then I just looked for other work. You know what I mean? And that was what I did. I just registered at all the temp services. And some of them, they'll send you to a place for a week or something, literally just temp jobs. But a lot of them will find you a temp to hire position. And I found a lot of good places. I found now a couple of the places I only stayed at for a few years because, you can go to a place and it's a great place to work, and the culture of that business can change in an instant, basically. I've worked at places that were just fantastic jobs, and then, a month later, I hate everything about it because just, the bosses have changed, maybe the company was sold or something, policies changed, whatever. And, you move on. That's the other thing. When you're working for a company, gone are the days where you're going to work at a company 30 years, you can get your gold watch and retire. That's gone. It might happen to you, but you don't count on it. Unless you're working for yourself, unless you're really pursuing a high-end career or something, any place you work at, you just see it as a gig. You see it as a gig. It's not your career, it's a gig. There are no careers anymore. That's the cold hard truth. Again, unless you're going to go learn a trade, something like that, for the most part, no, you're not going to have a career at a factory or a printing press or a bindery or a warehouse or a shipping department or anything like that. You're just not going to have quote unquote career there. You're not going to have a career, at X company for 30 years and get your gold watch and retire. Doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So view every place you're at as a career and understand that the culture of that job, I worked at a job it was right after the place I left, and then I'm at now again. But I'm kind of surprised this place I'm at now rehired me because I wanted to go temp back in the day. Temp was actually a much better gig back then. Back then, they paid you time and a half for weekend hours. So, you could work 2 12s on a weekend. You've almost made a 40-hour week right there. And then a couple more days, and you've made good money and still have some days off. That's not how it is anymore, sadly. But I wanted to go temp, and they kept dicking it around. Basically, they weren't going to give it to me, but they wanted to keep saying they were going to give it to me. And I was young and hot-headed. One day, I just walked out. I went on break. And as my break was about ready to be ending, I said, "No, fuck this." I went and took a shit, but then I clocked out and went home. I took a nice long, taking your time shit. I brought I had the newspaper in there and the whole 9 yards. That was my last shit on company time there. So I then had another job later that week because it was, this was pre-Obama. You could actually find work pretty easily. And that was a really nice place for quite a few years. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't. Then all of a sudden, there was a vast change in the corporate structure, and it was just kind of a miserable job. And finally, I was looking for other jobs while I was there. And I finally left that job to go to another place that I worked at for a year. And then they lost a government contract. I got laid off. I've managed to keep a perfect streak where I've never been fired. I've been laid off. I've been told, we lost contract. Sorry. See you. Bye. But I've managed to keep the streak where I've never been fired. I've come close. There's been at least one job where I knew things were going south, and I decided to quit before I might have gotten fired. But I've never been fired, so I consider that a streak I'm quite proud of. Somebody in the chat says boomers should be gassed. I prefer the idea of the ice flow. Like, wait till winter and go up to Maine or something where it's really, if it's a really hard winter, if we can just pull off the kind of Eskimo thing where we actually put them on a piece of ice and push it out to sea, I think that'd be a bit more fitting. Somebody says, haha, I've been asked to resign. Yeah, I haven't quite been there. I was in a position once though where um I made the mistake of switching from second to third shift because I don't know. I don't know why the hell I thought it was gonna be better, but whatever. The boss on third shift was a complete dipshit. And one day he comes by and he's running his mouth about some dumb shit. He had no idea what we even do really. And I'm trying to clean up this mess second shift left. And I finally just kind of snapped at him and I was like, Carl, we'll call him Carl, that wasn't his name. Carl, I'm trying to clean up a mess I didn't cause, but I'm nonetheless responsible for. You need to either help me or get out of my way. And I made the mistake of blurting that out where other people were in earshot. And I knew right away, I was like, oh, fuck. Well, he just stomped off all mad. And I'm like, ah, shit. So my first break, I go into his office and I'm like, look, man, I want to apologize for snapping at you. I didn't mean any disrespect. It was a rough time out there. I apologize, And he just kind of grumbled, okay, whatever. Well, in the course of like a week and a half, I all of a sudden got 2 write-ups over like dumb nonsense. You came back 15 seconds late from a break or dumb shit like that, just looking for reasons to fucking write me up. And I realized like he's just going to work me out the door. There's nothing I can do about it. Boomer, of course. And I'm just like, there's nothing I can do about it. He's decided I'm done. So, I walked in there and I made sure, again, it was third shift. I made sure the one day it was at the end of the shift when the first shift supervisor, who was also his boss, was in the office too. And I just walked in. I said, yeah, I'd like to give my 1 week resignation. It was my last break of the day. And, I was like, I want to give you guys 1 week notice. I think I'm done here. And then this guy's looking all innocent why is that? And fuck you. And I'm just like, I just looked at him, raised an eyebrow and looked at his boss and said, I just think it's time to move on. And what was funny was, so this was like an hour before my shift ends. Then I get called in the office right at the end of the day, clocking out, and they're like, we accept your resignation. You don't have to come in tomorrow. They didn't even want the 1 week notice. And I don't know why, like, it was almost this vibe, like they thought I was going to like fuck something up. You know what I mean? Like on purpose, like I was going to do something out of spite. Like I'm going to draw a penis on the wall or something. I don't know. And it's like, I don't know why you would think that. I'm obviously not going to do that because I'm trying to give you a week notice so that I've quote unquote left in good faith. So I'm obviously not going to be fucking things up. It's like, okay, fine. And particularly want to come in the rest of this week anyways. But yeah, that's boomers for you. How my last job, as much as I loved it, and it was a very small little group of people, but I mean, there was one boomer guy. He wasn't my boss. He was like right under my boss. He was like the lead, kind of thing. I guess they called it. And I mean, he didn't know how to do jack shit there. You'd think the quote unquote lead would be the jack of all trades. He'd know how to do everything, but no, he didn't know how to do shit. I mean, we were a shipping department. He couldn't have shipped a product out there to save his immortal fucking soul. All right. If he went to hell and the way out of hell was shipping a product, he's fucked. He could be working on it for 1 trillion years. He'd never figure it out. Bechtloff, are you still doing these pay to streams about particular subjects, or are you busy with work now? I am still doing them. It might take me more than a week. Like before, the thing was, if you pay me and I agree to it, once I get the money, I'll get it within a week of that. I think I'm going to stretch that to 2 weeks just because I am not a NEET right now, so it's a little different. But the going rate is $10 an hour. Now, when I say $10 an hour, understand what I mean is we're talking about the hour stream plus any sort of research I got to do on it. So, like, if you want me to watch a movie and then do an hour stream talking about that movie, well, obviously I got to sit down and watch that movie. So what? That's 90 minutes. There's your average movie. So that's $15 right there. $10 for the stream. So you're looking at $25. Probably, maybe a bit more if I got to really maybe research shit in that movie or whatever. But, and then it's another 10 if you absolutely want to guarantee Luke will be involved just for visuals and stuff like that. Because that'll be $10 going to him for his time. That's the going rate. I know someone messaged me about, I can't remember off the top of my head. It was watch a lecture or something and comment on it. I just haven't gotten around to it, the past couple of weeks. I've been kind of settling into it, this part-time job. And then obviously I'm looking for full-time work. And then there's the holidays. It's just been a little bit hectic. But yes, I am still doing that. I'm still open to that. Like I said, the rate is roughly $10 an hour. It's another 10 for Luke. So if you don't, what I mean, and I might have Luke on, even if you're not paying for him, he might just be free and hops in. But I can't guarantee him on unless you're paying for him. I'm not going to guarantee he'll be on unless you're paying for his time. The only thing a lead in a that went up very quick. The only thing a lead in a warehouse/factory job knows how to do is suck mean managerial dick. Well, okay, I'm gonna let's call this lead Bob. Again, that's not his name, but we're gonna call him Bob. There was one thing Bob was good at. Bob was good at inventory. He damn near had half that warehouse memorized. So I give him that. That's just one thing he does. And he didn't even do it on his own. Every morning there was what would you call it? Counts, we called them. But you'd go through one section of an aisle, make sure what is actually there matches what's in the system, kind of thing. You would think, since inventory is the only fucking thing he did, and I mean it's the only fucking thing he did, you would think he'd just do that on his own. But no, he'd hand out counts to everybody else. Again, he never shipped a product. Never saw him ship a product. Couldn't ship a product, save his soul. In fact, what we call picking, which is where you actually went and got the order to ship. Let's say it's, we're shipping one widget to this customer. You go find that particular widget in that particular spot, grab one widget, and boom, it goes in with the paper and ready to be shipped. You technically had to do that in the system, in the scanner. Now, we kind of had to abandon that for a while because the scanners had just gotten so slow with the Wi-Fi issues we were having. But while he could obviously pick, any idiot can, go to this spot, pick up this widget, if you're familiar with the inventory. He did not know how to pick in the scanner. He didn't know how to do that. Because I remember one time, there was this hot order that we'd already gotten pretty much everything shipped. And, customer service, because customer service was as useless as fucking tits on a bull there. And, because customer service's job is to manage customer disappointment. That's their job. That's their primary job. Because basically their job is to be able to say no. Because any swinging dick can say yes. Anybody can just, oh, you're sure? Yeah, we can have that shipped to the moon overnight. Why the fuck not? It's 6 in the evening, but sure, whatever. We can ship it over. Anybody can just say yes. Any idiot can do that. Saying no and managing to do so without pissing the customer off too much is the skill in customer service. But they'd come out with hot orders all the fucking time, way too late in the day, whatever. So I remember one time they come out with a hot order, and we were still doing the scanners. So I went and grabbed it real quick, and Bob, we'll call him, he's bouncing around on the fork truck looking busy. So I real quick, and because he had the scanner on the fork truck, rather than go grab a scanner, log in, scan the thing, I real quick said, oh, can you real quick scan this pick, do this pick in the system? And I mean, you thought the way he had no fucking idea what he was doing in it was kind of shocking, especially from the bullshit attitude he'd always give people. I was kind of taken aback by the ineptitude. I didn't know what the fuck to say. Like, he didn't know how to do it. I had to literally walk him through the fucking process step by step. It almost would have been quicker for me to just go grab a scanner, log in, do it myself. I was shocked. But he was so brilliant at politics of the workplace, as it were. He was so good at it. He was so good at it. Oh, he knew how to play the game. Oh, but he was so fucking useless. So useless. And he gets so pissy when he actually had to do work too. Oh man, like I remember one time he had to strap a bunch of big skids of product, because if it's a full skid of product, it's got to be strapped so it can go freight. And normally there was the other guy that did that, but he was out and we were all behind. We were short staffed. Frankly, they shouldn't have laid me off. We were barely had enough people as it were at this place. So he's actually got to do a little bit of fucking work. So he's in a pissy mood. So I'm shipping stuff, and I'm, of course, looking up the proper addresses for some of these fucking foreign orders, because for some reason, the idea that you need to give me your full fucking address seems to be lost on some of these motherfuckers in Asia. So I'm looking up, where the fuck this place actually is, because I'm doing that all day. Now, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, that's the customer's responsibility to give me their full fucking address, and it's customer service's responsibility to explain that to them. But whatever, I was screaming. We were all, the whole department was screaming into the void on that one. So I'm trying to figure out where the fuck this company is. It's proper damn address. So I'm Googling it and shit like that. And I hear him yell something. Look, don't look like shipping, because I'm on Google, right? Looking shit up. And, he thinks I'm dicking around. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, I don't know, looking up whatever. He thinks I'm just screwing around. And look, sometimes people screw around there. I'm not going to lie. But not when we were busy, obviously. Well, he's pitching a fit. And I'm like, Bob, again, you don't know what shipping looks like. I blurted out at him. Like, I'm looking up an address. Where's fucking baby boomer cocksucker? Look, on one level, I'm kind of glad I got laid off there, because I know people that work there, and I know I'm good friends with at least one person that works there still, and they're short-staffed. They were short-staffed when I was there. You get rid of another person, you're really short-staffed. So on one level, I'm glad it was me, because, well, it was a nice job. Again, I can sit here and ramble on about the bullshit, but every job has its bullshit. It was a nice job. It's going to be increasingly become a mess, because that company's just, it's having a rough time, and it's getting rid of people when it shouldn't, because then it just doesn't have enough people to do the work, and things get fucked up, and you just end up in a downward spiral. But if I'm being honest with you, and this isn't to just suck my own dick, they should have got rid of him and kept me. It's not even that I am the greatest employee that ever walked into that store, or I'm sorry, store company. It's that, you know, he's useless as tits on a bull. I mean, if you just teach any one of the other people there how to do inventory really well, he's completely worthless. You know what I mean? But like I said, it is what it is, you know? Shit happens. Oh, Luke wants to hop in. I wasn't really sure how long this stream was going to be, so I wasn't going to pester him. But since he's listening and wants to hop in, I'll send him a link. So let's see what we got going on in chat here while I was rambling on. Let's see. Somebody says boomers are the best Gollum generation that the Jews ever constructed. Watch TV, do what the Jews tell you. This guy, here's the other thing about this guy. And again, we'll call him Bob. First of all, fat motherfucker. I mean, just fucking like, this is a movie Bob kind of fat. You know what I mean? He's like 50-year. He's like boomer trucker fat. You know, the guy who spent his life working, sitting on ass. And here's the other thing about him. He used to work at a company called Quebecor. Now, Quebecor is a staple of this area. Was for a while. They shut down. And I think at one point they were called Diversified. They were called like a million different fucking things. All right. And as bad as the company I'm at now is on mandatory overtime, they're nothing compared to Quebecor. Quebecor, Diversified, whatever the fuck they were called. It was a nightmare for fucking overtime. But here's the thing about it. The actual work was a big fucking nothing. It was some of the easiest fucking work you could ever do. It was just that you're stuck being there every waking moment of your life. And he would ramble on about how hard Quebecor was. Like it was the fucking coal mine, right? Like this motherfucker, you know, just, again, I can't think, like he fucking worked in a coal mine or something. And the only real thing was the hours, which he never really minded because he was obviously there for like 25 years, which, you know, I don't know. I'm not impressed. When you're at a place for 25 years that butt fucks you with constant mandatory overtime, you're working, you know, 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. I'm not impressed. I don't look at that as like, oh, wow, I can't believe you did that. It's more like, oh, wow, I can't believe you did that. Because it's kind of more like sad to me. You know what I mean? Like you just, like me personally, I work to live. I don't live to work. You know what I mean? I want to have a life outside of a job. You know, I want to see friends and family and live my fucking life. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just crazy like that. You know, it's like, I was able to raise a family. Yeah, but your daughter never fucking saw you. Your son never saw you. Yeah, you got him pretty toys. That's nice, I guess. Fucking joke, whatever. The whole boomer generation, fucking joke. The worst generation. The worst generation. So he says boomers don't understand the concept of incentives. It's part of their narcissistic personality defect. If you explain it, and they will blab on entitled. It's all projection. Oh, that's the thing. Let's call him Bob again. He's Bob. That's just what we're gonna call him. Bob would flip out if he ever saw me like dicking around online. And again, we all dicked around online sometimes, you know? I mean, if you were slow, you were slow. Meanwhile, this guy, no lie, this guy must have, like, he spent half the day outside smoking cigarettes, all right? You know? And I've yet to understand, you know, how it was somehow morally superior for him to spend half his fucking workday outside smoking a cigarette. Like, that's somehow morally superior to me occasionally checking Twitter on my office computer. Yeah, you're not supposed to, but we all fucking did it. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be doing it now. I'm not on the fucking Twitter, but whatever. You know? It's just typical boomer shit. You know what I mean? It just... And again, my boss directly over him, one of the best bosses I ever had. Again, I'm not going to name names. We'll just call him Jim. Jim was fantastic. You know, Jim's only problem was he didn't see how useless Bob was. That was Jim's biggest problem. Which I can't even blame him for, because Bob was just very, very good at creating the illusion of usefulness. You know, you had to really be in the thickest things to see through it. Like that motherfucker must have been in the army because he was sure good at creating the illusion of work. And I know that's something you'll learn in the military. I know that from military friends. Looking busy is a skill you learn very quickly there. But Jim, again, we'll call him Jim, not his name. Fantastic guy, just outstanding guy. I mean, when he called me in that office that morning to tell me I was getting laid off, right? I mean, he calls me in there and he's like, you know, he's explaining like, look, I have to lay you off. I'm sorry. You know, and I'm just, I look at him and he's in there, I think with the HR lady, you know, and I just sit to him like, well, I mean, obviously I'm not happy about this, but you know, this sounds like a really bad idea. We're short-staffed as it was. And literally the next day we were going to do the year-end over our inventory count where, you know, we don't ship anything. We shut down the whole thing, you know, and do the big mess of fucking inventory count, you know, which is hard enough with a full staff. And I'm like, looking at him like, it seems like a really bad idea. We're kind of short-staffed as it is. And he just looked at me and he goes, oh, I know. I'm not happy about it. And then he's like, you know, I worked out a deal where he got me basically a month 3 on the health insurance, which was nice, which meant I actually had a solid quarter of, or more than a quarter. I had a solid 4 months of being on health, a solid third of the year of having health insurance. And, you know, he was like, we're not going to obviously dispute your unemployment. You know, the HR lady was super cool. She's like, you know, if you need help filing, just give me a call. Here's my number. I can help you out, walk you through it. They were all super cool about it. I can't be mad at that at all, you know. But like I said, not to suck my own dick, but I'm not the one they should have gotten rid of. And it's not that I'm the greatest worker in the world. Trust me, I could have been better. But I at least had, like, it would have been much easier to teach me what the fuck Bob did than teach Bob what the fuck I did. Let me put it that way. Let's see. Somebody says Bob's wife's son. Somebody said, Bechtloff, where do you find a girlfriend? I don't know. Some of the dating sites are good. I've found some decent girls on there. You got to wade through a lot of crap. You got to be patient. You got to deal with bullshit of a dating site, but some of the dating sites are all right. Preferably the ones you got to pay to be in. And I know that's, you know, oh, I don't want to pay. I know you don't, but you know, it keeps the riffraff out. I mean, if you're just looking to get your dick wet, I guess go on Tinder. But if you're looking for an actual relationship, you might have to actually pay to be on a dating service. Because I don't know how to go out into the world and fucking pick up a woman. You know, I don't really know how to do that. Like, I mean, I've done it before, but I don't really know how I did it. If that makes sense. I mean, every girlfriend I've ever had has kind of just fallen in my lap. No pun intended. Like, chicks are like the weather. That just, it comes and it goes. And, you know, I just, you know, sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's not. You just deal with it. It just happens. You know, sometimes you have a girlfriend, sometimes you don't. It just happens. It just seemed to wander into my life and then eventually wander out. I'm not really sure what makes either one of those happen. I have a slightly better idea, having, you know, read some game stuff and all. I can look back and see some patterns, but primarily it's like it just sort of happens. I'm not the guy to ask. I've done okay with women. I don't know why or how. You know, I mean, you know, not to go all my dick on everybody, but you know, I was banging my high school sweetheart and her cute little blonde friend at the same time when I was still in high school. I've done okay. in that department. I got nothing to prove, but I don't know how the hell I did that. I don't know how I managed to make that happen. My love life is more just something that has happened to me than anything I've ever had a great deal of agency in. Asian, a bunch of dating sites. I see Luke's throwing up there. But yeah, I couldn't really tell you on that. I'll tell you what, though, I found it harder since being in the church. That's a whole different animal. Church girls are it's a little bit of a different situation there. Bechtloff, do you think superhero comic shows and movies would be revitalized by series about the rise of villains like Darkseid and Thanos, with them as the main character? I'm not sure about Darkseid, but I tell you what, if they really follow the book, the comics well, the source material well, a Netflix show starring Thanos would be amazing. Thanos is one of the most interesting characters in the entirety of the Marvel pantheon. In fact, there's a series called I think it's called Thanos Quest. It's right before Infinity Gauntlet is the story of when Thanos assembled all the Infinity Gems and was able to take basically complete control of reality with it. You know, he puts them all in the gauntlet, and he basically is able to, you know, manipulate the fabric of reality and the whole universe at will, essentially. And what's interesting about this story is Infinity Quest is the story of Thanos Quest. I'm sorry, is the story of him getting these gems, like finding them and gathering them up. He wants to do it because he wants to bang the goddess of death. He's in love with the goddess of death, you know, and he wants to be worthy of her, right? Well, when he finally gets all the gems, she basically kind of just, you know, submits to him, but she doesn't love him because now she's so far above him, kind of thing. And there's this real tragedy to it all because it's, in some regards, the handful of times Thanos has won, and he's basically flat out won and then just sort of almost subconsciously fucked himself over. He's never been able to hold on to victory for very long, but there's been a few times he's really had it. He's really had the tiger by the tail. But the thing about it is he's extremely unhappy when he does. I almost thought there was sort of the story of Thanos' first ascension to like the height of his power in Thanos Quest and then Infinity Gauntlet. It's almost like if you could imagine if the devil won. You know what I mean? Like in his rebellion against God. Let's say, just imagine for a moment, you know, the devil succeeds in kicking God off the throne. The moment he sits on that throne, he's going to be the most miserable being in existence. And I mean, you add in the element that Thanos does this for the love of a woman that ultimately still spurns him. You know, that you add that burn onto it all. But it's very compelling the way it was written. The way Jim Starlin wrote this character throughout the 90s and into the early 2000s was just amazing. And yeah, you translate that to the small screen or the big screen. Well, not the big screen. Let's say a TV show. You translate that to a Netflix show and you translate it well, you will have something outstanding. I don't know if you'll have something that's going to be very popular, because I don't mean to go all Rick and Morty fan base, but it might be it's not just going to be an action show where a bunch of people get beat up. You know what I mean? It's going to actually have little bits of philosophy in it and shit. It's going to actually be, dare I say it, sci-fi in a meaningful sense, you know? Like I said, it's not to say that it's the most deep thing in the world, like it's fucking Milton or something, but, you know, there's some depth to it. And a lot of people are dipshits, and they're just not going to be able to. They're just not going to follow it. You know, to be fair, you have to be very smart to follow Thanos' story.
And also prepared to be one of the worst tragedies.
But that's something I thought when I first read it. It really is like, if you can imagine the terrible tragedy, the personal tragedy for him if the devil won. It would honestly be a worse punishment than anything God does to him. Let's see. What else we got here? Bechtloff, you should watch the YouTuber New Sage. He does quick bios of DC, Marvel, and Wildstorm superheroes and villains. That sounds kind of interesting. I used to do little bits of that on my blog back in the day. Do a little hero or villain spotlight. And sometimes it was just talking about characters. A lot of times it was more like characters I think have tremendous potential but didn't get enough play. Like a good example, there's a character, Demo Goblin, a Spider-Man villain. Now, obviously, if you know anything about Spider-Man, you know about like Green Goblin and Hobgoblin, for example. These guys that, it's all science and tech based, but they have this goblin persona, right? Well, the second Hobgoblin at one point ends up making a deal with a demon to get like supernatural powers, and he becomes what's generally referred to as the demonic Hobgoblin, where he's basically possessed completely by this demon. And eventually that demon breaks off and becomes Demo Goblin, who we see here, who has the same general MO as the goblins, but it's all supernatural-based weapons, like, hellfire bombs and, spiritual darkness shit, and his glider's made of hellfire and that sort of thing. So he breaks off from this second Hobgoblin, and he becomes both enemies of Spider-Man and that second Hobgoblin. And his deal, and it was his deal even when he was, possessing Hobgoblin, was he was a demon that wanted to kill other demons and sinners in a largely misguided attempt to try and win back God's favor. In other words, he thought if he waged war on sinners and others' demons, he would be able to find redemption. It's not like God told him this. He just fucking figured. He just assumes that that's what God wants him to do, to try and win. So there's this interesting element of him as an actual demon trying in, his own broken way to, he's trying very much like Cain, in a matter of speaking, to earn God's favor. It was a very interesting thing because, first of all, it's interesting to see a goblin character in Spider-Man that doesn't have the exact same motivation as all the other goblins, which is, I must kill Spider-Man and or take over the mob. Like, that's all of them right there. That's all the Green Goblins and all the Hobgoblins summed up. I must kill Spider-Man and or take over the mob. So that was just somebody I did a little bio of on my blog. It's an interesting little character. He didn't get a lot of screenplay. It was kind of, in some ways, he was both a product of and a victim of the 90s. In the 90s, we constantly wanted to up the stakes. So, the Hobgoblin, who is in and of himself designed to be a more hardcore version of the Green Goblin, well, we got to have a more hardcore version of him. But also, we got to have every other fucking issue be some sort of event to try and get speculators. So, we introduced the Demo Goblin, and not a couple years later, it's like, oh, the amazing death of the Demo Goblin story. So, kind of a product of the 90s. He, like I said, both a product of and a victim of the 90s. The other interesting thing that I remember doing bio of, and this would actually make a really good Netflix show if Marvel wanted to do this, like in a cinematic universe. There's something called Captain Universe in the Marvel universe, and it's not so much a character as it is kind of a concept. It's this sort of sentient force in the universe called the Unipower which will possess random people at certain times. Well, not random, it chooses them, but it will possess people, not even possess, it will just, like, let's say you're just some guy in the Marvel Universe, you're walking down the street, all of a sudden you become Captain Universe. You got the costume, you got the powers, and you got a little voice in your head saying, hey, I need you to do X, Y, or Z thing, right? And then when you're done with that, the Captain Universe power goes away. And this has even happened to superheroes at times, and they end up with both this power plus whatever their superhero powers are. Like Spider-Man had it for a little while, that kind of thing. And it has just the general laundry list of cosmic superpower powers. You know, it can fly, energy manipulation, you know, energy blast, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a very interesting concept. And it would make a very interesting anthology series on Netflix. Let's see. Bechtloff, if you and Luke tried it, you could probably make good money doing a comic book character bio YouTube/VidMe channel. Just a thought. I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure about VidMe because, like, I like VidMe better as a platform for a number of reasons. It's not the best thing in the world. It still has like bullshit hate speech rules and all, but it's not as bad as YouTube. But by the same token, it's not, you know, YouTube is the video site on the internet still, so it doesn't have the audience as YouTube. I mean, I just threw up one of my VidMe vids on the YouTube channel tonight in an effort to try and get more people to go watch the VidMe channel. But yeah, it's definitely something I might look into doing a regular show of. And I like talking about a lot of these characters and concepts. There's a lot of brilliant little ideas floating around the Marvel and DC libraries that don't get enough focus. Let's see. Somebody says they'll completely miss the point. Worse, the creators will just roll with it. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Maybe like the Thanos show I suggested or something. But yeah, Captain Universe, one of my favorite things. There's actually there's a storyline that's in the Spider-Man comics, generally referred to as the Cosmic Spider-Man saga, where he gets the Captain Universe powers, but something went wrong where he got the powers, but he didn't become Captain Universe. He just got the powers and didn't know why or where they came from. You know, it was like it was some sort of lab somewhere he was working at as a, like, you know, assistant research scientist, and he pushes this guy out of the way of this explosion. They were doing some like hadron collider type bullshit, some particle accelerator thing. And, you know, he pushes him out of the way of this explosion, and he thinks he gets these powers as a result of that lab accident, you know, similar to how I got the powers before. But really, Captain Universe was trying to, like, not possess him, but, you know, possess isn't the right term, but, you know, was trying to make Spider-Man Captain Universe at that point. The uni power was trying to go into him, and something about that explosion kind of fucked with the uni power a little bit. So it took it a while to actually, like, give him the knowledge and you know, the mission. So he's just sort of running around with these fucking, you know, really massively upgraded powers and doesn't know why. I don't care. Steven Universe is Captain America for some reason. Let's see what's going on in the chat. See, this is the thing. I always say, like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to run on for too long. And I've already gone on, like, over an hour. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the Silver Surfer had it for a little while. You know what I always thought would have been cool is if like Ghost Rider would get it at one point, because it would kind of be cool to like see the hellfire around the skull, but drawn with kind of like Kirby dots or something to look almost like cosmic energy and hellfire at the same time. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, it can basically, and again, possess isn't the right term, but it can empower any living being essentially. There was actually one cool story where it there's this like cat burglar that was like he's trying to rob some high-rise apartment, right? And he that's actually that panel right there is from a What If where like the uni power just decides to stay in Spider-Man because he's so cool and responsible. I'll just hang out with Spidey for for good now. But anyways, um there's this one Captain Universe story where it's like this cat burglar is like trying to break into some high rise. He's doing that cliche thing where he's cutting the circle into the window and some big high rise skyscraper thing, right? So he kind of he ends up falling off and like he's falling to his death. And at that moment, the uni power empowers him and says like, "Oh, there it is. There's even the panel." And he's all like, "Okay, I need you to do something, right? And and I've saved your life, so you gotta." And the guy's like, "Okay, fine." So, but the guy kind of like ends up blowing the mission off and is trying to use it for his own personal gain, right? And a Unipower is like, no, stop this. I need you to do the mission. No, stop, dude. I need you to do the mission. And finally, it just says like, all right, fuck you, bye. And like this guy's like flying through the air, doing superhero stuff, But again, he's blowing off the mission. And the Unipower is like, finally, like, fuck you, bye. And it just leaves him midair and lets him fall to his death. And it like the narrator in the comic says like, and the Unipower left him just as it found him, falling to his death. So it don't fuck around. Gave you a second chance at life there, and you squandered it. And said, "Fuck you, see you, bye. See you in hell, motherfucker." Let's see. He says Marvel had its head out of its ass, and DC wanted to be cool again. They could do a crossover where the Avengers and Justice League team up against the Thanos Darkseid team up. That'd be cool. I mean, it would be kind of hard to top the Avengers Justice League crossover they did back in 2004. But still. Going robot. How about that? Hang on.
Oh, Chris, you went back to normal already.
Oh, I went back to normal? How about that? I should make that a stretch goal on a Patreon. Like I get a new laptop. Maybe that'll fix it. But then I'd feel bad if like people like basically bought me a new laptop and still didn't somehow fucking fix it. Because I'd just be sitting there like, I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why it does this. Yeah, Captain Universe is a cool concept. I'd like to see it done in film. Or not film, like an anthology series would be great. Actually, I think the last action figure I bought recently was they did a Spider-Man Captain Universe action figure, but it also had like you could take the head off and switch it out with just a normal looking doodad. So it could be like Spider-Man Captain Universe or just Captain Universe. Oh man. Let's see what's going on in chat. Anything? People just talking about the robot voice. Let's see. A lot of people shitting on boomers. Boomers are pretty terrible. Oh yeah, there was the one time where it took over a dog. I remember that. Yeah, like the dog is like like there's this narration of the dog's thought process and how it became like how it had human level sentience for the duration of the mission. And like I suddenly understand things at a greater level than I ever have. And like just as it's fading from him, is like I can see my mental faculties are starting to turn back to normal. But at least I will forever know I am truly a good boy. Uh Captain Universe Doug. Captain Universe Doggo. That's just fantastic. Uh Comics are cool. It's a shame. It's a shame SJW's butt fucked him so bad. Let's see. Captain Universe versus Captain Planet. One is gay, the other is Captain Universe. Um, so he says, boomers are like Muslims. They destroyed civilization, declaring their own divinity. The Middle East was okay pre-Islam. Oh yeah, I mean, you often hear this from like cucks that defend Islam, but they'll show this handful of actual. Oh, I'm robot again. God damn it! Hang on.
Let's see what else we got. What else did Captain Universe possess? Dogs, Spider-Man. Oh, apparently they met. Captain Universe and Spider-Man met face to face. Apparently.
All right, I'm back. But yeah, like a lot of the cucks will often talk about the contributions Islam made to civilization, and it's almost entirely like pre-Islam, Middle East, like I don't know, like Persian Empire shit or something like that. Let's see.
So they're really Arab contributions and not Islamic, because let's face it, Islam can't produce much.
No, I mean it's an incredibly dysgenic effect.
Kind of like communism.
Yes, very much like it. Somebody says, remember the Ultraverse comics, Prime, Nightman, Strangers, Lord Pumpkin. Yeah, I never really got into the Ultraverse stuff. I got a few of the crossovers with the Marvel I read, but that's about it. Islam only steals other shit and says now it's Islamic. Yeah, that's when they're not burning down other shit. Let's see. Somebody says we are Bechtloff. Resistance is futile. Yeah, trust me. If I knew what the hell caused that, I'd stab it. I'm not sure whatever, like legally, what happened to the Ultraverse characters, because I thought Marvel owned them, but then I guess they didn't entirely own them. Like Marvel used to do constant crossovers with them, used to promote. Marvel owned part of the Malibu comic stuff, because like there were actually times where like there were constant crossovers between the two universes that were canon in both. Like for a while, the Black Knight from the Avengers literally was just living in the Ultraverse in that universe and was a member of their version of the Avengers called the Ultra Force. Like their big superhero team. So it's like literally just canon. I mean, imagine if like a Marvel superhero just went to the DC universe and lived there for several months and routinely appeared in the Justice League book. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the rights issues with them were, but it's like I think Marvel like partially owned them or something, because they never bring them back. They never do anything with them now. So I think the ownership stuff is all like somewhat ambiguous.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a cartoon show about them.
Oh yeah, tons of stuff got cartoons. I mean, hell, Wildcats got cartoon. Savage Dragon. There was a shit ton of that stuff in the 90s. So he says, Bechtloff, I'm reading the Ocarina of Time manga while watching this stream, and it's a good read. Yeah, those mangas are pretty good. There's a few Zelda games I wish they do that were more story heavy. Like Link's Awakening would be a great story heavy thing to do a manga of. It's kind of counterintuitive, but actually Legend of Zelda 2 would make a decent manga. I mean, the premise is all of Ganon's minions are trying to kill Link and uses blood to resurrect Ganon. Like, I mean, you know, story was such a backseat in those era games that you kind of forget that was actually the story back then. Am I robot again?
Not anymore. You just went back to normal.
Okay, god damn it. It's pissing me off. But yeah, the mangas are really good. I actually want to do on the VidMe channel, like, compare and contrast between A Link to the Past manga and A Link to the Past comic in the in Nintendo Power. Like, two different adaptations of the same game. It would be kind of interesting to compare and contrast. I don't know why Hawkeye is 7 feet fucking tall in that picture. Like, at least. Look at how tall. Like, go back to that picture of, like, the Ultra Force and the Avengers hanging out, right? Now, that's like a promotional thing for the crossover the two had and all, but, like, okay, now that I'm looking at it, I think maybe, like, Cap and Thor are, like, supposed to be standing further in the background. Like, they're not all... But, like, for a second there, it looked like Hawkeye was, like, 8 feet fucking tall. Because he's, like, he looks like a good foot taller than Cap and Thor. But I can kind of see now they're further in the background. I see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sensing a lot of McFarlane or Liefeld of influence on the characters here.
Yeah, they're not good character designs. That's not particularly good art either. But, I mean... like, you can have, like, ridiculous proportions on the Hulk and kind of get away with it. Because, like, you could argue, like, the Hulk kind of sometimes swells in size as, like, his rage is building or whatever, you know, the energy inside him is building or whatever. So you could almost have muscles almost swollen a little out of proportion with each other and sort of get away with it with him. You know what I mean? But, like, look at fucking Prime. Prime has always been, like, ridiculously fucking jacked to the point where I bet you that motherfucker can't move. You know those bodybuilders that could, like, barely move because they build entirely for, like, you know, shows, basically. They build entirely for looks. So, like, sometimes they don't work their back out enough, so their, like, arms are permanently, like, resting in this weird position and shit. You know what I mean? Ugh. So he says Majora's Mask also had a one-shot manga. Yeah. A lot of the games did. Majora's Mask. They just put out Twilight Princess. 2 volumes worth.
Yeah, this might be a bit of an exaggeration of what I found.
No, that's probably, like, just regular art in his book. I'm not kidding. Look at that, man. Am I doing it again?
No, for every time I put the picture up, your voice goes back to normal.
Damn it. Okay, well, just... the picture chases it away.
Apparently so.
Look at that guy. He looks like he's in pain.
Steroids didn't begin to describe this structure.
Oh man, I saw a video and it was almost haunting, but it's like this dude was, like, all jacked up, right? And he's flexing, and he flexed, I think it was like a bicep, and it actually tore his skin open.
Oh wow.
And there's, like, a brief second before the blood just covers it where you can kind of see the muscle tissue.
Oh.
It's like, holy shit, dude. That looks like what Prime's about to do, like, all over his body. Aaron Cleary says, "Our crossovers just admitting they ran out of ideas. I know you like them, but cripes, Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers or whatever the hell crossing over was." What I don't know about Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers crossing over, but I like the crossovers where they admit that they exist in different universes and there's some sort of like dimension hopping that happens there. Just because I inherently like the idea of multiverse stories, anyways. So I love those kind of crossovers. I'm not a big fan of the ones where it's like we're just going to act like they always existed in the same universe. I'm doing it again, huh?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Motherfuck. Probably going to end this stream because it's pissing me off.
Technology is so weird. Anyway, what else do we have bicep-wise? Well, this one has Prime is about to. It looks like he's about to explode with his muscles.
Bechtloff, have you ever read Supreme? Also, you see Marvel is really pushing Hyperion hard and his team lately, trying to step on DC's toes a bit. Yeah, probably. Oh, good God. I think he is going to explode in that panel. Look, his cape is bubbling.
Oh yeah, that was a story. He's actually a kid with a gigantic body, right?
Well, yeah, it's some sort of like Captain Marvel type thing. He's like a kid that turns into Prime.
Oh yeah, that was
it. What the hell, man? But yeah, crossover is about the only fun thing going on right now in comics. I mean, the Metal is pretty good over at DC, and what the hell? And the Doomsday Clock's good, although that's technically a crossover too. But yeah, other stuff, it's just fun. Metal's far better and has any right to be. It's like, hey, what if a bunch of Justice League characters were evil versions of Batman for some reason? Because fuck you. And yet it turns out it's really, really cool and fun. I like the Batman Who Laughs, where it's like, yeah, it's like kind of like the Joker and kind of like Batman and kind of like a Cenobite, but the best possible version of what you're imagining there. Yeah, like there's a Batman Who Laughs. His origin story is one of the best alternate universe stories I've ever read. It's just so good. There's like one Batman that like turned himself into Doomsday in his universe. Like Superman's going all crazy in his universe and is killing everybody. And like to stop him, he like injects himself with this virus that turns him into a doomsday monster so he can kill Superman. Got a bunch of fucking Robins on leashes and shit. Like it's just so gnarly. It's far better than it has any right to be. You know, it turned out to be really good. There was a comic. I think I talked about this maybe Thanksgiving night or whatever. There was a comic came out last week. I just checked it out this week. It's the start of a miniseries. It's King Kong in the Planet of the Apes. And it's basically like it starts off right after the first Planet of the Apes movie. Like Dr. Zayas wants to blow up the Statue of Liberty because he doesn't want any evidence that man was ever in charge. And then they find like a corpse of a King Kong ape, and then they find all this evidence of Skull Island, so they go to Skull Island. It's pretty good. It really has a classic kind of B science fiction movie vibe to it, which, I mean, you know, Planet of the Apes itself was sort of harkening back to like 50s B sci-fi. So I mean, even the title sounds like that. It almost sounds like those classic crossover movies from the 30s with like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. Somebody says, Bechtloff, speaking of crossovers, DC's Injustice 2 game has Hellboy and all 4 of the Ninja Turtles as playable characters. Yeah, I saw that. They started scooping up the rights to a bunch of non-DC characters to put in the game. I don't know why, but I have no interest in the Injustice games, and I really can't put my finger on why. Like, I like fighting games. I like superheroes. I like DC superheroes. Hell, I like Hellboy and the Ninja Turtles. Throw them in there too. Why the fuck not? I even like the Injustice prequel comic book. I thought that was one of the best things DC published in the last 5 years. And somehow every time I'm looking at like footage of the Injustice games, I'm just like, meh. And I really can't put my finger on why. I really can't. Sorry, answering a text there. Huh. Somebody thought I was ignoring them. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really get what it is about those games. It's just something about them just doesn't. It's not even like I think they look bad. I just look at them and somehow I just have no interest in them. Nothing about them is sparking any interest in me. Yeah, I really don't. I don't even quite get it. I mean, I don't really like the costume designs in them, if I'm being honest with you. They're a little too over designed. But I also just kind of accept. I mean, they're in many regards they're no worse than the New 52 costumes that were what was in the comics when the first Injustice game came out. But I don't know. I just can't quite put my finger on it. I even sort of like DC versus Mortal Kombat, and everybody shits on that game. But I thought it was fun. I mean, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's got a bunch of DC characters and a bunch of Mortal Kombat characters together, and you can play it with your buddies, and it's amusing. I mean, I'm not really sure what everyone wanted out of it. That everyone's like, it's so terrible. Like, yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not. I mean, yeah, it's no Marvel versus Capcom, but it's a fun thing to break out when your buddies are over. You know, speaking of crossovers, something I'm kind of surprised that they never did would be Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. Now, I know Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat obviously have very, very different styles, but you can mesh 2 different styles and have it work. And just the reason I feel like it would make such a good crossover primarily is just because, at least when I was a kid back in the 90s, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter were the fighting game genre. Like everything was trying to be one of those or both of them. At the very least, you'd think maybe they'd do a comic of them, even if doing a game might be too costly or something. I mean, you know, just do a comic. That's awesome. Where did you get that art? Send me that art later. That's fucking fantastic. I love that. Um, but yeah, just doing I mean, like Udon is doing Street Fighter comics right now, and DC's doing Mortal Kombat comics. So I mean, shit, do a crossover. DC's been doing tons of crossovers with stuff it publishes right now. So yeah, if they announce like even just a comic, never mind a game. If they announced a game, that'd be, you know, holy shit, I'm buying that game as soon as I can. But if they like announce a comic, that'd be one of the few times I'm like super amped for a comic again.
Yeah, but then the question of whether or not you can kill the characters would come up, and they wouldn't do it.
Well, that's true, but I mean, you know, well, in a comic book, characters aren't going to die that often, anyways. I mean, it's not like when I was a kid, I thought everybody in Mortal Kombat was in hell. Like I thought they were all in some sort of like, well, not necessarily hell, but some sort of dimension where like they would actually die and be resurrected. Like all these deaths were actually happening to them. You know what I mean? But yeah, you maybe you can't like kill people left and right, but you could still be doing, you know. I mean, like I said, I haven't read a ton of the Mortal Kombat comic, but they're not killing people left and right in that because it's obviously more linear storytelling than a fighting game.
Well, game wise, if it came up game wise, it would have to come up because everyone plays Mortal Kombat for the fatalities.
That's true. Like I said, it would. You definitely have to put some real thought into how you mesh the two styles when it, you know, if you were doing a game of it. That said, though, I'd still love to see it. I'd still love to see it attempted. But even just a comic book, I'd be happy with. You know, something else I was kind of surprised they never did. You know, all these Marvel vs. Capcom games, and they never did a Marvel vs. Capcom comic. That always kind of surprised me. Same with Mortal Kombat versus DC, although the difference there is for some reason nobody liked that game. But, you know, DC was publishing Mortal Kombat comics and never did, you know, never did that story. Bechtloff, what do you think of the Killer Instinct games? You know, there's a comic. I did know there was a comic of it, but I never got really heavily into them. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. So he says, I missed the stream thus far. Did Bechtloff talk about his Thanksgiving? And nothing really to talk about. You know, I went to a relative's house and had dinner. That was it. Something I did know, I mentioned this Friday, and I'll mention it again because it's worth noting. I even was talking to my friend about it, I guess, earlier today. And, you know, normally at this relative's house, it's my dad's cousins. And, you know, there's all sorts of other relatives there that I'm barely sure how the fuck they're related to me. It's like, you know, this is my first cousin twice removed or some shit, you know, or my second cousin once removed or whatever, you know, they're just general cousins where I'm not even sure what manner of cousin they are, kind of thing. So what often happens is we get there a little earlier, and I usually, you know, I'll go put TV on, see what's on, you know, flip through the channels. A lot of times over the years, there's like, you know, somebody's running like Bond movies or something all day, you know, find that. Well, today, or not today, this year, I found Jurassic Park was on TNT, and I was like, hell yeah, one of the best movies ever made. I'm going to sit here and watch this. And what usually happens is I'm watching a movie, and then a bunch of the other relatives show up, and they all want to watch the game, more football, right? All right, fair enough, you know, whatever. But you know what I noticed this year? That didn't happen this year. A bunch of them came in and no one wanted to change the channel and put on my football. No one. You know, because I mean, they all come, you know, a bunch of them come in And I'm getting ready for it. I'm thinking, now they're going to change the channel. And lo and behold, just never happened. Suddenly it was dinner time. And then, we all ate and people kind of went back in the living room and still no one, everyone's just sitting talking to each other. No one said, put the game on. No one even mentioned football. I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I wonder, I get the feeling this might not have been the only household that saw that happen this year. Somebody says, Bechtloff, what Lantern Corps would you be in if you had a choice? I guess like the different colors in the DC thing, like Green Lantern and all. I don't know. I mean, if I had a choice, I guess I'd be in the Green Lantern Corps. Being honest with you, if the ring's choosing me, I'm probably getting a red one. I mean, I'm almost certainly getting a red one. So, yeah. I mean, I'd rather be in the Green Lantern ones, but like I said, I think I know which one's coming for me. It was so cool when Jeff Jones expanded the Lantern mythos into all the different colors and all. It was something that was almost just so obvious to the Green Lantern mythos that it's hard to believe. Not, basically less than 10 years removed from him adding so many of these. It's hard to believe it wasn't always there. Like, it's almost hard to think of the Green Lantern mythos now without, the red lanterns and the orange lantern and the blue lanterns and the Star Sapphires and the Sinestro Corps and all that. It's almost hard to imagine the Green Lantern mythos without them. And yet it's been less than 10 years since, I think Sinestro Corps Wars, when he started to really introduce a lot of this shit, that was, I think, 07. So it's been basically 10 years. He slowly introduced a bunch of them after that. So, it's kind of weird to think about that, but it's pretty impressive when a writer can come onto a franchise that has existed for decades and decades and decades and add something that fits so unbelievably well into the mythos that it's hard to imagine it wasn't always there. You got to give Jeff Jones props for that, man. Let's see. Well, I think I'm probably going to wrap this up. It's about 1 a.m. anyway, so. Luke, thanks for your sidekick duties, as always.
No problem.
I didn't do a sponsor tonight because I didn't think I was going to even do anything close to a full show, and I didn't think what do we go, like an hour and a half or some shit? So 2 hours. We went too far. I should have done a sponsor, but I thought I'd be on here for like 30 minutes at first. So, if I'm going to do a half-ass sponsor here, Aaron Clary Books, check them out. Go on Amazon, check them out. And yes, Aaron, I'm sorry this wasn't really a truly sponsored thing. Like I said, I thought I'd only be on here half an hour. That's why I didn't bother putting it in the bottom there. I didn't think this would be this long of a show. But don't worry, you're getting plenty more. You're getting plenty more streams for your money. I kind of threw in his weekday shows a little bit. Like I mostly only charged him for the Friday shows because I'm nice like that. See, that's the thing. If you want to sponsor my live stream, if you're paying for a good chunk of time, I can cut you a deal. Well, yeah, check out Aaron Clary's books. Good stuff. Also, PayPal, Patreon. If you enjoy the show, send me some shekels. That's greatly appreciated. That helps me keep doing what I'm doing. Especially right now because I got some Christmas shopping I still need to do. So help my loved ones have a Merry Christmas if you enjoy what I do. That's greatly appreciated. And also, VidMe channel. VidMe channel. Luke was just putting that up there. Go check out the VidMe channel. Go check out the VidMe channel. All right. I am much more proud of what's on the VidMe channel than I am of these. All right. I got me a quality animator who's animating some really cool videos of me rambling on about nerd shit. It's good stuff. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that background. See that background right there? See that Bulbasaur background? That's good stuff right there. That's Jennifer Dahl. All right. That is indie game designer Jennifer Dahl. Made me some awesome background. All right. So yeah, check that stuff out. All right. That is all I got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening. And yeah, Bechtloff out.